agriculture as agriculture officer, assistant agriculture officer, joint director of agriculture. When they go to field, they have failed 100%. They have failed to say the farmer that it is not due to yellowing is not due to pest and disease. It is due to micronutrient or any nutrient deficiency. No, the people have completely see not only students. I will tell you one thing: 99.9% of the faculty is also not able to come to the conclusion that directly they can't able to say that this is due to yellowing plant is due to nutrient deficiency. Many people will say if any plant showing yellowing, certainly they will going to say to spray the fungicide, systematic fungicide, which is said to be a broad spectrum in nature. Broad spectrum means one chemical is said to controlling many diseases, so that the plant can able to recover the original position or original green condition. Simply you go to pathologist, you go to entomologist, or even you go to agronomist, or even you go to a soil scientist. Many a teacher, many faculty, many scientists, if you look, they will going to see the plant in the first angle of predictioning the yellowing of the plant is due in the angle of any damage by the fungus, bacteria, or any other pest. Second priority, they will go, then only they will go. Once their prediction is fail, there is no incidence of pest and diseases, then only they will think of the nutrient deficiency. My question is, you take these two angles in a single way, that is, as soon as you see the plant, any crop plant that is showing yellowing, how will going to decide this plant is having the nutrient deficiency or this plant is suffered due to the incidence of pest or disease? How? Whether it is possible? Speak out. Whether it is possible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, speak out. How you are going to say the plant that is showing the yellowing is due to nutrient deficiency or that is due to the incidence of pest and disease? Anyone? I will give you one mark bonus. See, don't go for soil test, nothing. See, once you go for soil test, then directly we come to know. Forget about soil test, forget about water test, nothing. Just taking you to the field, one crop field. That plant is showing, crop plant is showing yellowing. How are you going to say whether that plant is showing the deficiency symptom or that plant is showing the yellow symptom due to the incidence of pest and disease? That's my question.
So then we can go for the different plant parts like tissues. We can say that there would be like very little or miniature form of growth or every type of
Ankita Verma, you repeat once again.
Sir, I told that by observing the different parts of the plant, like leaves and different patches, we can see like that could be like little means growth, miniature formation, or different types of damage type of or different patches we can observe. So, which could not be seen in the other normal plants. So, like some different color of dead type of things. So, these things we can or growth pattern.
Okay, then anyone?
Sir, it might be based on is that the yellowing is for whole or at some specific part. Sir, if it is for whole plant, then we may conclude that because of nutrition deficiency. Sir, if it is only at some part, it may be because of due to infection of fungicide, sir.
See, sometimes what happens with respect to micronutrient deficiency, nutrient deficiency in general, I told So as you people rightly told, the nitrogen deficiency is first observed in the older leaves. Fine. Still, when the plant showing the nutrient deficiency yellowing in the older leaves, still we can't able to apply the nitrogen fertilizer. Then yellowing will start expanding to all other leaves. Entire plant at the final stage, at the critical stage, the entire plant will going to become yellowish and then start wilting and then dying. That is yellowing will keep, it is not only specific to, it will never restrict to only some part. Initially, that observation can be made with specific part or specific leaves, then it will keep on expanding to the other parts also. Then how you can going to say that it is a pest disease damage or nutrient deficiency? I will give you 2 marks bonus, certainly. Say in each and every class, you can ask with your seniors or any other senior students. My class is like this only. And even no one has scored less than 45, 46 in the internals because of this grace marks. Everyone will be getting around 49.5, 50 like that.
Sir,
Because this, tell me.
sir, if the plant is deficiency with some nutrients, it responds all plant bodies and damage it, sir.
Whole
But
plant
if
will damage.
whole
Okay.
plant, all parts are damaged, sir.
Okay.
Like yellow, yellowing, then other colors, sir.
Okay.
But it is then fungicides or pesticides affect means only some parts are affected, sir. Based on this we can observe.
No. Then
Sir,
yes.
sir, pest and diseases are mainly affected to upper leaves, sir. Means younger leaves, sir.
No. There is no criteria of younger leaves and older leaves for the development of bacterial or fungal spores. They can develop in any leaves. Even they can develop on stem, root, like that. Then,
So as specific nutrients shows specific crops, by that we can get to know this.
see, many nutrient deficiency will show yellowing only. Yellowing is a one general color that will make the people, not even people, even the scientists, to get confused whether this is a nutrient deficiency. If it is nutrient deficiency, which nutrient deficiency? Next confusion. Right?
Sir,
Yellowing is-
mainly yellowish. Hello.
Tell me, Gopal.
Sir, yellow is for nutrient deficiency. It's browning and yellowish leaf edge and leaf tip, sir.
Okay.
And sir, fungus and pest and diseases are whole leaf are damages. So we can identify that it's a nutrient deficiency.
In second year, there is a one course for you people, that is pest management. There they will going to show the figures with respect to thrips. Mainly the thrips will going to damage the margin only. The tip, they will start damaging the leaves from the tip and also from the margin of the leaves. Okay. We can't say that looking into the tip or margin, that is nutrient deficiency, no? Anyone?
So maybe in nutrition deficiency, all the plants in the field maybe get affected, sir.
Okay.
If the diseases are communicable, we could see the spreading of diseases.
See, you confine your answer only for a single plant.
Sir,
Tell me.
if we have deficiency with nutrients, all metabolic or physiological functions are stopped, sir.
Okay.
When fungicides or insecticides are affected, sir, the time uh, physiological functions are takes place, but damage will be affected.
Sir, sir,
Okay. Tell me.
paste will be, hello, sir,
ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ
paste will
ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ.
be, paste will be causes whole crop destruction, sir. But in nutrient deficiency, it causes only at a specific part of where it is become deficiency, sir.
Sir,
Tell me, madam.
sir, in early stage, the pest disease were caused, and mature stage, the nutrient disease was caused.
What, madam? What, madam?
In early stage, the pest and disease, it is caused, but in the mature stage, we find out the nutrient deficiency in mature stage.
No, madam. No.
Sir, case of
At any stage, the pest and disease may occur. At any stage, the nutrient deficiency symptom may occur.
Sir, in case of fungus, we can observe the traces of fungus, sir. Whereas in case of nutritional deficiency, we couldn't observe any organisms other than that plant, sir.
How you are going to trace out that fungus?
I mean, so we can see that some whitish color, the fungal, we could figure out the structure, no, sir. We could change, we could, sir, by seeing the
Sir,
color.
Okay. Tell. Hemant.
sir, if it is caused by fungus, it may like shows the characteristics of rust or smudge, sir.
Okay.
It may confine to what a small region, whereas if it is suffering from a nutrition deficiency, it will show by whole plant, sir.
Okay, you are somewhat nearer you and previous person. Your answers are somewhat nearer. See, if any plant is said to be yellowish in nature, any plant showing the yellowish in color, kindly make a note of it, or kindly remember, if a plant showing deficiency symptom, either it may be a nitrogen deficiency, either it may be a potassium deficiency, either calcium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese, zinc, boron, all the nutrient deficiency will end up with chlorosis. All the nutrient deficiency will end up with chlorosis. What is the meaning of chlorosis?
Destruction of chlorophyll.
That is destruction of chlorophyll and development of xanthophylls. Xanthophylls is nothing but yellow color pigment, right? And if you come to the pest and disease incidents, immediately after the development damage or incidence of pest attack or fungus or bacterial attack, then also the plant will show yellowish in color. Either it may be a deficiency symptom or either it may be a pest or disease incidence. The plant will show chlorosis. This makes a lot of problem for a scientist or any other farmer to come to a conclusion whether this chlorosis is due to deficiency of nutrient or the incidence of pest and disease attack. How best we can able to visualize and how best we can able to come to a conclusion directly means, if there is any pest attack in the crop plant, all the pests will not damage the same part. Some pest will going to damage the stem, some pest will going to damage the root, some pest will going to damage leaves. There may be certainly there will be a damage you can going to realize. Either it may be a whole, either it may be a chaff like cuttings on the leaves, like that. If there is any damage by pest, suppose if there is any damage by thrips, that is only a minute insect. We can't able to visualize directly. There may be a curling of leaves will going to take place, and also the burning symptom will going to be occur. One thing is, if we observe the yellowish color due to damage of any part of the plant, damage means either that leaves may get separated out from the stem, that is fallen of leaves, or there may be a cutting, eating edges of the leaves like that. Then you directly come to conclusion that this is due to pest damage. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು? ಹಲೋ, if there is any damage to the any part of the plant, either it may be any type of damage, or either that part of the plant is intact with the plant, or it may be separate out from the plant, then you can able to say that it is a pest damage. Then how you can able to identify the yellowing with fungus or bacterial damage or incidents? The chlorosis will going to observe along with the characteristic symptom of diseases. Either it may be a leaf spot, either it may be a blight. Blight means very long, blight will occur like very elongated patches. The center of the spots will going to have a whitish in color, whereas the periphery of the leaf spot will be having yellowish and brownish in color. Or sometimes the leaves will be sometimes the plants will be showing a numerous number of spots on the leaves or numerous number of spots on the stem. Then we can able to tell that chlorosis with characteristic symptom of spots, then it are with blight, then it is called as chlorosis is due to disease. Then the third aspect is chlorosis with respect to nutrient deficiency. No organ in the plant will going to be separate out. This is the first thing you have to observe. Whether it may be a leaves, whether it may be any fruiting organ, or whether it may be a panicle, whether it may be a grain, or whether it may be a root, all the organs in the plant system will be intact. It will never be separated out. First thing you have to observe. Second thing, there will be a chlorosis. Majority of the essential nutrient element symptom will going to be end up with chlorosis only. And in chlorosis, we will be having complete chlorosis. The entire leaves will become the yellowing. The second type of chlorosis is intervenal chlorosis. That is, the veins which are present on the leaves will be remain as a greenish in color, whether the leaves that is present between the two veins in the leaves, that will be converted into yellowish color. Intervenal chlorosis. These two type of chlorosis which predominantly indicates the deficiency of the nutrient, and there will not be any development of spots, blights on leaves or stem or root. It may be either it may be a complete chlorosis, or either it may be a intervenal chlorosis. This is a second point. Third point, if there is any deficiency symptom, this deficiency symptom is specific to specific organ. Mainly, majority of the deficiency of nutrient will be observed on leaves. To say an example, nitrogen, it will going to be takes place in the older leaves initially. The nitrogen, then at a severe condition, it may be extended to middle of the leaves, but never it may be extended to younger leaves. Before it extended to the younger leaves, the entire plant will start dying. And there may be a complete chlorosis or intervenal chlorosis, and also if it is a deficiency symptom, only the specific plant organ will show the deficiency symptom. Not all the organ will going to see the deficiency symptom. Suppose if it is the chlorosis is observed due to the pest or disease, the entire plant organ will going to show the chlorosis. There is no organ is specific for damage by the pest or disease. Within a fraction of 4 days or 5 days, the entire leaves in the plant system will be damaged by the pest, and the entire leaves in the plant system will be accumulated with numerous number of spots, leaf spots, with respect to fungus or bacterial incidence. But with respect to nutrient deficiency, this chlorosis will be observed with the particular leaves. Either it may be younger leaves. With respect to phosphorus, the middle of the leaves will show purplish in color. I will say why it is in middle, not on upper side and also not on the lower side. Like this, all the leaves will not show a uniform deficiency symptom. Only specific organ or specific leaves will going to show the yellowish in color without any spots on the leaves. This, once you observe these three important observations, then directly you can say that any farmer or any people, this plant showing the yellowing not due to the problem of pest or not due to the problem of any diseases, it is due to the deficiency of nutrients. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತೇನ್ರಪ್ಪ? If can you able to repeat? How we can able to say the when one can able to come to a conclusion the yellowing or chlorosis is due to nutrient deficiency? Anyone? You will get 1 mark bonus.
So like
Tell me, madam.
you told about that chlorosis generally is that thing which will be accompanied by any type of deficiency mostly. So it would be like it would be going to be observed along with the other symptoms like blight and all, sir. And in this, no part would be separated, sir. Means all the plant parts would be like intact, whether it be any type of rain or leaves or pod or anything. And sir, then the chlorosis would be like in the majority, and it would be either be complete or intervenous, sir. Means of the leaves, which are affected in the entire leaves part. And so there would be no development of any pods or flowers or anything in any type of sir in it. So and so this deficiency symptom is like would be specific to that specific organ, sir, whether it is complete or anything. And like phosphorus you told, and it is not like uniformly in all, sir, not uniform deficiency symptoms, only specific leaves show that without any spot or any other thing, which would be seen in case of pests like that entire plant part, it would be affected very soon with the spots and all. That is not observed in it. So.
Very good, madam. Ankit Verma, you are from?
Sir, Bihar, sir.
You are from Bihar. Okay, you can get your 1 marks bonus at the time of final internal finalization. Are we clear? Any doubts? See, this will be, you should keep this difference until your last breath on this earth. You should never forget this. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? Again and again, no one will going to tell this, and many people, I am not taking any credit, but many people will not say this, but you should be very pakka. That's why I used to tell more thing, and also I need you people involvement for the discussion, then only we can learn. Completing the syllabus is just a matter of 10 to 15 days for me, but involving in the discussion and understanding concept, whether you will continue your post graduation in agriculture or not, all these things, fundamental things as a agriculture graduate one should know. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Fine. Then we'll continue with the class, that the classification of essential nutrient. The first classification is based on the quantity of nutrient required or the quantity of nutrient uptake by the croplands. Based on the quantity of nutrient required or based on the quantity of nutrient uptake, the nutrients, the essential nutrients are classified into 3 types. One is macro, nutrients, or it is also called as major nutrients, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. They are required in the larger quantity. The role of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium is more in croplands. That's why the crop will use to consume more amount of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. That's why they are classifying under major or macronutrients. To say an example, last class I told, if any farmer come and ask, sir, I am growing sugarcane, how much amount of fertilizer, what are all the fertilizer I should apply, then any scientist for that matter, they will going to say, you apply this much quantity of N, P and K. No one will going to say you apply secondary nutrients. No one will going to say you apply micronutrients. No, the secondary and micronutrient recommendation should be based on the soil test value. If the soil is having found to be deficit with secondary nutrients like calcium, magnesium, sulfur and micronutrient, then only we have to advise the farmer to go for application of the nutrient which is showing deficiency. Or else, in general, the fertilizer recommendation is nothing but recommendation of N, P and K. Even if any farmer come and ask you, sir, for to grow 1 acre of rice, how much quantity of fertilizer we need to apply, you will going to tell around 40, 20 kg of nitrogen you should apply. Nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. You will never say you apply zinc, you apply sulfur, you apply boron, you apply calcium. No, because they are all required in a lesser quantity, and that lesser quantity can be supplied by soil itself. But these macronutrients, they needed in a larger quantity. The soil cannot able to supply this large amount of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. That's why invariably we have to apply these nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium through fertilizer. For any crop, for each and every crop, in each and every season, the farmer should apply nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. That is macronutrient. Then secondary classification is the secondary nutrients, that is calcium, required in very small amount, that is calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Then the third classification is the micronutrients. These are required in very trace amount. See, the soil can able to supply itself to the cropland, the secondary and micronutrients, but the required amount of secondary and micronutrients can be supplied through the soil, but the required amount of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium cannot be supplied to the croplands by the soil. That's why we are applying urea, single superphosphate and potassic fertilizer to supply or to meet out the requirement of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Then the classification of essential nutrient element based on their biochemical behavior and physiological function. Based on the biochemical behavior and physiological function. The first statement or the second statement of essential nutrient element, that is, each nutrient element or the deficiency is specific to the particular element and can be corrected only by supplying of the particular element only, because that each and every particular nutrient will be having its own role. Nitrogen will going to increase the vegetative growth. No other crop will going to increase, no other nutrient will going to increase the vegetative growth in the croplands. Only nitrogen can do that. To say an example with respect to phosphorus, phosphorus is the only nutrient element which can able to increase the growth and development of the root. No other nutrient will going to increase the growth and development of the root. Potassium, this is the only nutrient element which will going to helps in giving the resistance to the plant system against the various pests and diseases. No other nutrient element can able to perform this function. That's why each and every nutrient element will be having different role in the plant system. Hence, they are classified based on their biochemical behavior and physiological function. Based on this heading, we are classified the nutrient element into 4 groups. The first group, that is CHO. carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. See, without carbon, the plant can survive. Without hydrogen, the plant can survive. Or without oxygen, the plant can survive. Not only plant, for this matter, no living organism can survive on this earth without any carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, because these are the structural elements, basic structural elements. Without CHO, no plant will absorb any nutrient element and no plant will going to survive on this earth. Not only plant, for that matter, even all the living organism on the earth. So CHO, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, these are classified as yes, it's audible. Hello.
Sir. Yes.
Okay, fine. The first group is CHO. These are called as basic structural elements. Without say, for all the metabolic processes, we need carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. You take a photosynthesis process, photolysis. To take place a photolysis, there should be a breakage of water molecules to hydrogen and oxygen, dark reaction, light reaction. For all those things, without carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, nothing. Without CHO, none of the essential nutrients will going to be absorbed by the crop plants. Hence, this carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, they are called as basic structural elements. The next is nitrogen. The second group is nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And these three nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus, are the major nutrients or macronutrients, and sulfur is classified under the secondary nutrient element. These are called as accessory structural elements. Accessory structural elements. Accessory structural elements means these are the building blocks of the structural elements. To get a proper shape of the plant, we need to go for production of proper chain of protein, like that. A protein, for the synthesis of protein, nitrogen is required, phosphorus is required, sulfur containing amino acid, these are required. Hence, these are classified as accessory structural elements. Next, third group is potassium, calcium, and magnesium. These are called as regulators and carriers. The third group is very much important. They play a major role in the crop plants. They are considered as regulators and carriers. Potassium is one nutrient element is said to be play a dual role in crop plants. That is, it helps in translocation of sugars, especially for sugar crops like beetroot and sugarcane. We need to apply more amount of potassium, because if we apply more amount of potassic fertilizer, the sugar content in the sugarcane and also the sugar content in the beetroot will going to be increased. Thus, it will help in the synthesis of sugars and also the translocation of sugars in the plant system. And apart from this, the potassium helps in giving a lot of resistance against the various pests and diseases to the crop plant. Whereas calcium and magnesium, calcium and also potassium helps in the opening and closing of stomata, that is during the photosynthesis process. It helps in regulation. Then carriers, calcium and magnesium is very much important nutrient element which is required in the photosynthetic process. That is photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, that will you going to learn in your physiology course. This thing, especially in photosystem 1 and 2, the magnesium role is very much important. That's why the potassium, calcium and magnesium, they are considered as regulators and carriers. Next, all the micronutrients, they are classified under the fourth group, that is catalyst and activators. They act as a catalyst and activators, and for various enzymes, catalyst for various enzymes and activators of oxidation and reduction process to take place. All these micronutrients play an important role. Henceforth, based on the role that will going to be played by a nutrients, they are classified into four groups. One is, the first group is CHO, they are called as basic structural element. The second group is called as the accessory structural elements, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and sulfur. The third group is the potassium, calcium and magnesium, they are considered as the regulators and carriers. And the fourth group, all the micronutrients for that matter, they are considered as catalysts and activators. They act as a catalyst to carry out the various physiological process in the plant system. These are the four major groups. We will going to classify the essential plant nutrients based on their biochemical behavior and physiological function. Have you understood? Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Then the third group, that is classification of essential nutrient element based on mobility in the plant system. This is very much important in order to identify the deficiency symptom of any deficient nutrient in the plant system. First, you have to understand this classification. Based on mobility, we are classifying the nutrient element into two groups. Mainly, more strictly, we are going to classify it into three groups. One is mobile, second is moderately mobile, and third is immobile. In general, we will club both mobile and also the moderately mobile into a mobile group. So here I have I have listed all the macronutrients, secondary nutrients, and micronutrients, and I have given their mobility in the plant system. See, CHO, they are not considered as a mobile or immobile. They are the basic structural element they are required. Whereas the other 15 micronutrients, say, don't get confused. The essential nutrient element also includes CHO. When we consider C, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, then only we can going to have 18 essential nutrient element. Don't get confused. This basic structural element is also considered as the essential micronutrient. Essential nutrient element to the crop plants. Then I have given the symbol. See, from this table, definitely make a note of it. You will going to get around 3 to 4 questions. 3 to 4 questions for your objective part. Because many a time they will going to ask a symbol you are familiar with the chemistry, but the form of uptake of nutrient of each nutrient element by the crop plant makes a matter. You should know nitrogen, in which form the plant will going to uptake the nitrogen, in which form the plant will going to uptake the phosphorus, in which form the plant will going to uptake the potassium or any other secondary and micronutrient. That's what I have given in this table. You should be very careful. See, this column is very, very much important. The form of nutrient uptake by the crop plant. To say an example, the nitrogen will be uptake in ammonical form, that is NH4 plus and NO3 minus, and also the plant will going to be uptake NO2 minus, but this is it is not remain for a longer period of time in the soil. It will just convert into nitric acid or nitrous oxide, then it will going to be escape. The major two form of nitrogen that will going to be uptake by the crop plant is NH4 plus and NO3 minus. Again, there is a one question. Out of the 100% of the plant community, 99.9% of the plant community or plant species will going to uptake the nitrogen in form of nitrate, NITRATE, that is NO3 minus. That is 99% of the plant community will going to be uptake nitrogen in form of NO3 minus. Only certain crop plants will going to be uptake nitrogen in form of NH4 plus. Can anyone able to give an example which crop will going to uptake the nitrogen in form of NH4 plus?
Sir, legume plants, sir.
Leguminous plants.
Other than leguminous plants? Strictly speaking, even leguminous plant will not uptake nitrogen in form of ammonia, NH4 plus. They will uptake nitrogen in NO3 minus only. But they will going to fix the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen in the soil as NH4 plus. I will going to give 1 marks bonus to the person who tell the crop name. The crop which will going to uptake the nitrogen in form of NH4 plus. Yarappa? Anyone?
Paddy sir.
Excellent. Your name?
Ganesha H.
Keep it up. Paddy is the only one crop in the agricultural ecosystem which can able to uptake the nitrogen in both nitrate form, that is NO3 minus form, and also ammonical form, NH4 plus form. Whereas all other crop plants will going to be uptake nitrogen in form of NO3 minus only. You may get this question certainly. The predominant majority, that is the predominant form of nitrogen uptake by the crop plant, they will go into as. That is, you have to mark the nitrate form, NO3 minus. Then the phosphorus H2PO4 minus, HPO4 2 minus, PO4 3 minus, it all depends upon the pH of the soil. Kindly make a note of it. pH is a one nutrient element. Its availability is completely depend upon the soil pH. Its availability is completely depend upon the soil pH, and phosphorus is available to the croplands only if the soil pH is said to be neutral in nature. Soil pH is said to be neutral in nature. If you want to say the soil pH is neutral, what should be the pH scale?
7.
7, sir.
6.5 to 7.5. Or in general, strictly say, all the crop, any soil, we cannot measure the 7 exactly. So we will take this pH range of 6.5 to 7.5 as a neutral soil pH. Then only the phosphorus will be available to the crop plants in a larger quantity. Suppose if any soil is said to be acidic in nature, or any soil it is said to be alkaline in nature, then that soil is going, the phosphorus which is present in that type of soil will going to be fixed in the soil, that will not be available to the crop plants. You will going to get one question. The nutrient element, its availability is completely depend upon the soil pH is phosphorus. Whereas all other nutrient, even if it is acidic, it will be available. Even if it is alkaline, somewhat it will be available. But only the phosphorus, it is strictly confined to the pH. Then potassium, the plant will uptake in form of K+, calcium, Ca2+, magnesium, Mg2+, and sulfur. Sulfur will going to be uptake by SO4 minus, SO4 2 minus, and SO3 2 minus. And boron, see, many a time in order to confuse you people, they will going to ask in which form of the boron the plant will going to be uptake. That is H3BO3 minus, PO3 minus. H3BO3 minus and BO3 minus, in these two forms only the plant will uptake the boron. Then copper, Cu2 plus and Cu plus, and iron, Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus. And as compared to Fe3 plus, Fe2 plus will going to be uptake. This Fe3 plus should be reduced to Fe2 plus. Then only this iron will going to be uptake by the croplands. Then the manganese, Mn2 plus and Mn3 plus. Mn3 plus is a fixed form and Mn2 plus is available form, and Zn2 plus, molybdenum, MoO4 2 minus. Kindly remember this element also. That is the form of nutrient uptake by the cropland, that is molybdenum is MoO4 2 minus. Then chlorine, Cl minus, cobalt, CO2 plus, and nickel, Ni2 plus. We have to remember this column very carefully. Certainly, you will going to get either 2 or 3 questions from this table. This is the first part, in which form the nutrient will going to be uptake by the croplands. The second part is very much important, is this column, mobility in the croplands. Now, we will going to divide the essential nutrient element into 3 parts. That is major nutrient, secondary nutrient, and micronutrient. You see, all the macronutrient are major nutrient are mobile in nature. These are highly mobile in the plant system, mobile in nature. When in general, I am saying nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, all the macronutrients are mobile in the plant system. What is the meaning of mobile? What is the meaning of immobile? And how this mobile and immobile will going to decide the deficiency symptom in the crop plants? What is the meaning of mobile?
Sir, they
Movement
can,
of nutrition to all plants.
Movement.
That is movement. Say, if any nutrient is said to be mobile, say if the root is a one part which will going to absorb the nutrient first from the soil. From root, the nutrient will going to be first absorbed by the older leaves. From older leaves, it will be translocated to the middle leaves, and then it will translocated to the upper leaves. This is the movement of the nutrients. The nutrient directly will never move to the top of the plant. First it will absorbed by the root, then it will be translocated to the lower part, then it will be translocated to middle part, and finally it will be translocated to the upper leaves of the plant. Mobility means, to say an example, 100 kg of nitrogen is present in the soil. You just assume like that. 100 kg of nitrogen is present in the soil. The plant will going to uptake 100 kg of nitrogen. This 100 kg of nitrogen will going to be first absorbed by the root. This 100 kg of nitrogen will be first absorbed by the root, and then where it is transferred? From root it is transferred to
Lower part.
And finally to
lower leaves.
leaves, sir.
Leaves, that is the lower part of the leaves. From older leaves or lower part of the leaves, and then this nitrogen will be moved to the middle part of the leaves, and then from middle part, then it will be moved to upper part of the leaves. To say an example, what I told, the plant needs around 100 kg of nitrogen. It will absorbed by root, and then it will going to be first absorbed by translocated to lower part of the leaves. Since the nitrogen is said to be mobile in nature, it will never stagnated, or it will never accumulated only in the older leaves or the lower leaves. Since it is mobile in nature, any nutrient element for that matter, any nutrient element which is said to be mobile in nature, once it is absorbed by the root, then it will be transferred to older leaves or lower leaves, and they will not accumulated in the lower leaves only. Then it will start moving to the upper leaves, and all the nutrients will going to be accumulated on the top of the leaves finally. Then let us assume plant requires another 10 to 20 kg of nitrogen. If the plant requires 100 kg of nitrogen, this 100 kg of nitrogen will be completely distributed evenly in the lower leaves, middle leaves, and also younger leaves, and the leaves and the plant will never show chlorosis or any deficiency symptom. Let us assume now the second case, the plant requires around 150 kg of nitrogen, and the availability of nitrogen for the uptake by the crop plant is around only 120 kg. The plant will able to uptake only 120 kg of nitrogen, and this 120 kg of nitrogen which is absorbed in the crop by the crop plant will first transfer to root system, then it will transfer to lower leaves, then it will going to transfer to middle leaves, and then it will transfer to the upper leaves. But remaining 30 kg of deficiency will be shown by the older leaves. The accumulation of the mobile nutrient will be takes place from the upper part of the plant. If it is completely saturated, or if the required amount of nutrient is uptake by the crop plant, then all the parts will be equally distributed. Suppose with respect to mobile nutrient element, if the plant will never uptake sufficient amount of nutrient, whatever the uptake amount of nutrient will go and accumulate on the upper leaves, upper part of the plant, then the remaining required amount of nitrogen, the deficiency symptom will be observed only in the lower leaves. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ದಿ ನೈಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ಡೆಫಿಷಿಯನ್ಸಿ, phosphorus deficiency and potassium deficiency will observed only in the only in the lower leaves or older leaves. They will never be observed on the middle of the leaves, or they will never be observed on the younger leaves. But in case of phosphorus, what will happen? I have quoted somewhat mobile. The phosphorus is somewhat mobile. It is not 100% mobile. Nitrogen and potassium is 100% mobile. Hence, their accumulation will takes place on the upper leaves. Since it is not 100% mobile, it is mobile around 80 to 90%. The deficiency symptom will going to be observed in the middle of the leaves. Middle means not exactly middle, 3 to 4 leaves below the top. From the top, that is 4 to 5th leaves from the top of the plant, the purplish color will going to be observed on the crop plants. If you want to recognize, if you want to see the phosphorus deficiency, one can able to easily see the deficiency of this phosphorus in the sugarcane crop. The very, very, very characteristic colorful purplish color will going to be seen in the leaves of the sugarcane crop. And then if you come to the secondary nutrient, that is calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Calcium is mobile and sulfur is mobile, whereas magnesium is immobile in nature. Since magnesium is immobile in nature, what is the meaning of immobile? I have explained about the mobile. What is the meaning? Can anyone able to explain the immobile?
They cannot move, sir, from one part to another place, one place to another place.
Yes, they will start accumulating from the lower part of the leaves only, lower portion. They will not accumulating on the upper part. Why they will not accumulate? Because their mobility is restricted, their movement is restricted. All the whatever the magnesium that is take by the crop plant, first they will going to be accumulate on the lower leaves. Suppose if there is any deficiency, then the deficiency symptom will going to be observed on the younger leaves or leaves which are present on the top portion of the plant. Any matter, any nutrient element for that matter, it is immobile. All the deficiency symptom will going to be observed in case of upper part of the leaves. Calcium and sulfur is a mobile in nature and magnesium is immobile in nature. Why I am explaining very slowly means, while we are dealing with deficiency symptom of each and every plant, immediately as I tell about one particular nutrient element, you should assume where exactly this nutrient deficiency will going to be observed, because each nutrient will not show the similar deficiency symptom. Even chlorosis is more common, but some will be having intervenal chlorosis, someone will be having intervenal chlorosis on younger leaves, in middle leaves, and some nutrient deficiencies will be intervenal chlorosis on lower leaves. But this part of the plant which going to be observed, which we are going to show the deficiency symptom, it all depends upon the mobility of the nutrients. If it is mobile in nature, it shows the deficiency symptom in the lower leaves. If it is immobile in nature, it will show the deficiency symptom in the upper part of the plant leaves. And with respect to micronutrients like boron, copper, iron, manganese, zinc, molybdenum, chlorine, cobalt and nickel, especially the 6 micronutrients are said to be mobile in nature. You need not to remember this 6 micronutrients. Kindly remember the 3 micronutrients. One is copper, the second is iron, and third is zinc. Copper, zinc and iron, these are immobile in nature, whether all other micronutrients are said to be mobile in nature. Can anyone able to say which are all the nutrients are mobile in nature and which are all the nutrients are immobile in nature? Hello?
Sir, nitrogen.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Sir, mobile
Tell me
elements are nitrogen is the mobile macro element, and potassium and calcium is the some mobile, and magnesium is immobile, sir. Then uh, iron, manganese, copper, iron, and zinc are immobile, and molybdenum, cobalt, nickel, and chlorine are mobile elements, sir. And magnesium also immobile, sir.
The easiest way of remembering the mobility or immobile, say, out of 18 essential nutrient, you exclude carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Remaining essential nutrient is 15. Out of 15, magnesium, this copper, magnesium, zinc, iron, and copper. These 4 nutrients elements are immobile in nature, whereas all other nutrients elements are said to be mobile in nature. Kindly remember only 4 nutrient elements. One is magnesium, is immobile, copper, iron, and zinc. These are immobile in nature, whereas the remaining 11 nutrient elements are mobile in nature. If you remember this much, you can able to easily guess in which part of the plant the particular nutrient deficiency will going to be observed. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? 4 nutrient element. One is magnesium, copper, zinc, and iron. They are immobile in nature. Hence, their deficiency symptom will be observed on the younger leaves, whereas all other nutrients are mobile in nature. Hence, their respective deficiency symptom will going to be observed in the lower part of the leaves. That is the lower leaves in the plant system.
Sir,
ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ.
sir, what about carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, sir?
See, for each and every part it required. Suppose if there is any deficiency of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, the plant will never survive. The plant should uptake sufficient amount. Say, for carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, there is no sufficiency or deficiency. Sufficient, the required amount of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen should be present. What is the meaning of respiration? What is the meaning of respiration? Respiration in plants.
Sir, respiration is the in the presence of oxygen, the plants form energy. ATPs and that form.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೇಳಿ ಬಾಟ್ನಿ ಓದಿಲ್ಲೇನ್ರ? ಮನುಷ್ಯ LS 0020 ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ. What is the end product of photosynthesis? ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಈ ಮಲ್ಕೊಬಿಟ್ಟವಳು ಹೆಂಗಪ್ಪ ಹೇಳು? ಮನುಷ್ಯ LS వాళ్ళకి అబ్సెంట్ అప్పుడు. అమూల్ ఓ అభిషేక్ నాయక్.
Sir, Amol sir.
Biological oxidation of glucose into simple inorganic compounds, sir, like CO2 and H2O, sir.
Okay.
Respiration in plants, sir.
That is the production of glucose, alva?
Yes,
Glucose along with the oxygen molecule. oxygen molecule, that is the end product of photosynthesis. But in respiration, carbon dioxide will going to produce. In respiration, there is no sufficient amount of oxygen will be there. Else the plant will show xanthophyll pigment and start dying. Sufficient amount of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen should be there for crop plant. Then only for the survival of the plant, CHO is must. That's why we are classified them as a structural element. Without CHO, the plant will never survive. Once plants survive, then that plants will need all other 15 nutrient elements. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ?
Yes, sir. Sir, we can say them as a mobile, sir.
Yeah, we can say them as a mobile.
Sir, then the ammonia is uptaken by only paddy crop, no, sir. Why that specificity, sir? Only paddy could take.
I will tell you. See, that is the nutrient dynamics. I don't know whether if I going to take the crop production technology one, that is the cereals, pulses and oilseed, and that is forage crops, I will going to explain. Right now I will tell you, say paddy is grown under anaerobic condition. Condition means standing water. Artha agtidya? It is the only crop, it is the only field crop on this earth which can able to withstand the waterlogging condition, or which can able to grow under standing water, right from germination to harvesting. No other crop on the earth surface can able to tolerate that much quantity of waterlogging. Each and every crop required sufficient amount of oxygen for their survival in the root system. But paddy, what will happen? Because of the continuous submergence, the root will be present in the anaerobic condition. Suppose if you in paddy, 2 layers of soil will going to be formed at the time of puddling, that is land preparation. The upper part is oxidized layer, the lower part is reduced layer. That is, root will be present in the reduced layer, the above ground part will be produced in the oxidized layer. That is where we will going to apply the fertilizer. See, what will happen immediately when you go for application of nitrogen, to say an example, urea will be converted into nitrate, and then this nitrate will never remain longer period of time in the soil. Immediately when urea fertilizer is applied, that urea will be converted into nitrate, and this nitrate is highly soluble in water. It will start moving towards the root layer, and not only root layer, it start moving below the root zone also. Once it move below the root zone, what is that meaning? That meaning is called as leaching. That nutrient will be lost. The efficiency of nitrogen fertilizer in rice crop is only 40%. 40% means out of 100 kg of nitrogen we applied, only 40 kg of nitrogen will going to be uptake by the crop plant, and remaining 60 kg of nitrogen will be lost as a leaching. Because along with the downward movement of water, the nitrate form of nitrogen will also be moved below the root zone, that will never be available for uptake by the rice crop. In order to avoid this problem, the scientists may have told, say, in each and every soil, whether it may be a dark red soil, either it may be a loamy soil, either it may be a black soil, certain part or certain fractions of the clay mineral will be present. Instead of applying urea, if we go for application of nitrogen fertilizer in form of ammonical form, that is to say that ammonium sulfate is one fertilizer where nitrogen will be available in form of ammonia, NH4+. The clay is negatively charged particle. In soil, clay will be having negatively charged, and this ammonium NH4+ is positively charged. As soon as we apply this ammonium sulfate fertilizer, this fertilizer will be break down into ammonical ion and also a sulfur ion. This ammonical form, positively charged ion, easily go and bind to the negatively charged particle, that is clay fraction, it will not go below the root layer. It will always present on the top portion of the layer, and this ammonical form of nitrogen will be always present for a longer period of time, and this ammonical form of nitrogen can be absorbed by the rice crop in standing water, whereas no other crop on the earth surface will going to be absorb the ammonical form of nitrogen, because even though the root is present in the completely submerged condition, in anaerobic condition, the aerenchymatous tissue which is present in the root of the rice crop will helps in supplying the oxygen molecule. With that supplying of oxygen molecule, this ammonium will going to be absorbed by the rice crop, whereas no other cropland on the earth surface will be having aerenchymatous tissue on the root. All the plant will be having the aerenchymatous tissue on the leaves. Only the rice plant will be having the aerenchymatous tissue on leaves and also the roots. The oxygen will be absorbed in the leaves, from the leaves, and that absorbed oxygen from the leaves will be transferred to the root. This is the mechanism where the rice crop can able to survive for a longer period of time in the submerged condition. This ammonical play a dual role. Immediately it will go and fix to the clay particle that is negatively charged, and further this ammonical